Hello guys, so in this video I want to bring a subject which is brought to me quite often, is how do you become a photographer? Well, to become a photographer, if it's really something you're thinking about getting into it, is get yourself a DSLR, get yourself a lens and start shooting. Go out, take landscape, take portrait of your family, of your friends, and try to establish what type of photography you really want to get into. Because becoming a photographer, it's one thing. Wanted to be a certain type of photographer is another thing. So you need to find out what type of photographer you want to become. So by shooting, by taking photos of landscape, let's say you want to become a landscape photographer, well, by going out and practicing and trying different things, getting the right equipment for it, which will be wide angle lenses, filters, very good tripods, remote release. So this will be probably the basic equipment you will need for landscape photography. So that's one thing. Now then, portrait photography, it's another thing. You will need different lenses, probably higher focal length, so you get this probably nice deep of field if you wanted to get this type of portrait. So the most important thing is get yourself a cheap DSLR. If it's the first time you're taking photography, you getting into photography, probably an 18-55 or an 18-70, and start shooting anything you want to shoot, and try to find the type of photography you will get into, because photography, it's really something that has to be a passion for you. If you're only doing this commercially, it just won't work. It's got to be something you really enjoy doing. And I know when I do some jobs that I don't really enjoy doing, this is becoming very commercial, and that's where I kind of take a step back and say, well, that's not the type of photography I do. So I know at the beginning you want to try to get commission as quick as possible, as much as possible, and try to obviously get your equipment as the best equipment you can get. So so once you've started to build up a good portfolio of pictures that you like, you need to share these pictures. You need to find out what other people are seeing, because your market's going to be out there. You want to know what people think about your photos, because at the end of the day, they will be buying your photos. They will be employing you to be their wedding photographer. They will be employing you for the magazine to get a landscape of where you live into their magazine. So you need to get your work out there and try to see and have a look at what people are seeing. A great place to do this is Facebook. Facebook, it's obviously very sociable. You can put as much pictures as you want. You can share with friends. You can ask for comments, critics. There is certain groups where you can post your photos and ask for critics. So you have hundreds of people who can actually put their critique on it and let you know what went wrong, what went right. If it's a good picture, if it's a bad picture. Bad comments on your photos will be a great thing to get, because it's from getting bad critics that you actually work at the photos and try to make them better. Once you've made a portfolio of very good photographs where people have had very high comments about it, it may be a good time to start building a website. Now, a website, it's not that expensive. You can probably go through companies like ClickPick or start charging £35 a year. You can only put probably, I think it's 50 photos for £35 a year. But at least you have a presence on the web, which is very important as a photographer. Once you've started putting pictures on your website, you need to only put on the website the best picture you have. If you put 10 pictures on it and you have 8 extremely good and 2 that are bad, people will relate to these 2 bad photos and may think, if you want to be, let's say, a wedding photographer and you put 10 wedding photos and 2 are bad, badly composed, badly exposed, bad position, awkward situation, well, people may think, right, do I really want to employ him as a photographer and get this type of picture in my album? Well, probably no. So it's very important to have your best work you have. You don't need to have a website with hundreds of photos. your website should really show the style of work you're doing. If you are into portraiture, weddings, put a lot of portraits into it. Maybe you can have a few landscapes, you can have a bit of still life, corporate, just to show that you can do these jobs. But your specialty should be wherever you choose to be. It's very important that you have your own style, and when people open your website, they need to find out, they need to see, oh, this is a wedding photographer, or this is a landscape photographer, or wildlife photographer, or a corporate, anything, any type of photography you want them to think you are doing. You've got to have this presence on the web. Okay, so now you've got your website, you are taking pictures. The next thing to do is to advertise for your company. The best advertising is obviously word to mouth, but this will only come once you've started doing jobs. So to get on front of people and to get people to know you, you've got to do some advertising, and you've got to spend a bit of money on this. The first thing you want to get is business cards. Business cards are very important. I use a company called Moo.com, I think. And this company allows you to, let me just try to get to put obviously your details over here. I've put my picture here. I think it's important that the people see you. It shows that you are confident in what you're doing, confident in your work, and then you can actually put a picture of your work at the back. Now, this is something that's pretty good, but let's say I get approached for some advertising job, and the only cards I have are cards with portraiture I've taken. Well, it may not match, I mean, it won't be that important, but I think if you're gonna go with this company and you're thinking about putting your pictures at the back of the business card, you may want to think twice about what picture you're gonna put, because you may end a picture, let's say, let me just have a look at what I've got. Right, okay, so let's say I've got a children portrait here. Someone asked me, can you take pictures of children? And the only cards I have is a wedding one. Well, yes, I can, here are my details, but it would have been nicer to have, let's say, a kid at the back, a picture of a baby at the back, or something like that. My recommendation is, if you go for this type of card with Moo.com, is get something that you can use for any type of photography. So that's one thing. So you've got your business card. Now, advertising. Facebook is a great way to advertise. Being a photographer, most of your work will be local. So it will be in your city, in your village, around the area where you live. So Facebook has a great type of advertising where you can put, let's say, £1 a day or £2 a day, and you will only pay per click. And what Facebook will also do is go around your area. So let's say if you have 100,000 people around your area, your advertising will go around these 100,000 people. So anyone who clicks has an interest and will want probably to contact you if they're interested. So that's one thing. Right, so there you started advertising on a website or your local newspaper, and jobs are starting to come through, which is great. Now, when you're going to price your work, price it in consideration of your skills and experience. Now, if someone comes to you and say, right, they want to get married, wedding photographer, they want to get married and they like to use you as a photographer, don't hide the fact that it is your first wedding. I know it's hard to say to a couple, but if you tell them, this is my experience, this is what I've taken, I've done a lot of portrait work, and I know how to do this. However, I've not done a wedding before, so obviously you need to price yourself as not as cheap as possible, but you need to cover your expenses, obviously, and you need to make some type of profit onto it. So for your first wedding, I think my first wedding I charged £350. That's what I used to charge, and this was cheap, so I used to get quite a lot of people through the door. And as I was building my experience around weddings and getting more photos from my portfolio, that's when I started to then build up my experience, but also my equipment. Any commission I used to get used to go into my equipment. Obviously, you always come through difficult months where you need to spend some of the money you've made into your day-to-day life, but this is normal. But most of your income should really go into your equipment and trying to get this high-end equipment you need to really provide professional photos. Now, you can charge £2,000 for a wedding and turn up with an entry-level DSLR and an 18-55. You just won't get the result you should be getting, and people at the wedding, who probably you will find some people at the wedding who are interested in photography and may think, what is that guy doing? Although my camera is even better than his, and he's calling himself a professional. I know that this is only an image, but it is important that to have the right equipment, and I always use a battery pack. It does look, your camera does look a bit bigger, but I like the fact of having this portrait mode, you know, so I can just turn it. I don't have my hand here, I just have my hand here. It just makes it simple for me. But yeah, invest into your equipment, get the high-end equipment, get some insurance for your equipment, and yeah, that's how you should really start. Once you start in doing quite a few jobs, then the work will start flowing, or should be flowing if you're good at what you're doing. So yeah, if you have any questions about pricing or anything, send me an email or let me know, put a comment, and I'll be happy to put another video. Cheers.